Well, I'm Peter Whiteleg, I'm an RMT rep. I'm actually a booking office. I work in the booking offices, but not on National Rail. I work on London Overground. And on London Overground, the TfL have already tried to close down all of our booking offices, but we fought them off. We fought them off because we had a pretty good we had a very good campaign with the general public, with interest groups, and it was quite clear that the booking offices were fundamental to the operation of the railways, not just in terms of providing members of the public with services, but also in terms of safety as well. And what we've noticed over the last the last 2 or 3 years is that the employers want to withdraw an increasing number of services from the general public, so that you can't just turn up and buy a ticket. You can't just get the information that you want from a properly trained professional booking office clerk. All of that is going. It's quite clear that the government says that it wants to make staff more visible, so that people from the booking offices will now go out onto the concourse. Well, we know from TfL, we know from the underground, that that's exactly the excuse they used from there. Since then, they've been trying to get rid of staff. They've been trying to lower the number of staff down to the absolute minimum. And this is just the first measure in terms of completely depopulating the railways of staff. There will be very, very few staff on your stations once this goes through. That's very clear.
What brought you out to the strike today?
I'm Niall and I work in the tick office. It's the very basic one, but I see that we do more than just sell tickets. I like the idea of having a job in a couple of years and helping people who need the help.
Yeah. In your experience, like working in ticket offices, do you find that often is the case in your role? You do wind up helping people a lot?
A fair bit. I work at more of a mainline station, so it's not as prominent with everyday customers, but I've worked at a couple of outstations, and you'll find that on the whole, out of all the interactions you get, you don't sell tickets, you help people with local inquiries, help with finding their platform, onward connections, things that, yes, they could do with a smartphone if they knew how to use the smartphone and the apps that, there's National Rail Inquiries, train lines, GWR, SWR, there's so many different routes to find the information that it's overwhelming, as opposed to having a concise one-point information. They've got to jump through hoops to find the correct information, whereas we can just give them the plain answer.
Yeah. Have they given any indication at all what they're going to be doing to try and help out disabled customers who come and go? I know that I've worked on the rails myself before. I was one of the contractors who used to do gate line, and it was always on us to do that sort of thing, but I've noticed there's less and less of us, and in the absence of any staff,
there's fewer employed gate line staff. Do you mean from management telling us how we're going to deal with it going forward? So, I'll be honest, I've heard nothing from our management about how they're going to help. It's just that ethereal, it won't have too much of an impact on them. But as we can tell from other groups that are here today, they very much feel like there will be an impact to their everyday travel and their ability to just live their life how anyone else would.
And if you had any last message to the general public about what this strike is about, why it's important, why it matters to them as well as to the workers, then what would it be?
At the end of the day, as ticket officer, I'm genuinely there to help you. it's the reassurance of having someone there who is on your side.
Hello, I'm John Leach, RMT Assistant General Secretary. We're here today at the Department of Transport, and we're going to be marching down at Downing Street to take the message to the heart of the government that we will not stand for the closure of the ticket offices and the cuts and attacks on the railways and the railway staff that we represent. So we're marching with our feet, and of course we'll be out on strike again next Saturday. So solidarity to everyone, and thanks for coming down here today, our supporters. These issues are very real. The rights of disabled people to be able to access the railway, people to be able to travel safely at night with fully staffed stations, and we reject this government's ideology of the free market for the railway, and that's why we're here. So we'll see you down at 10 Downing Street.
We haven't done a bad job for this. We've stopped traffic.
Got it? Oh, you don't have it. Privatisation! Privatisation! Renationalise the railway! No to 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 privatisation! Renationalise the railway! Looking at your cameras, looking at
Welcome everybody, thanks for coming out here today on this protest as part of the RMT's campaign to save our ticket offices and to stand up for public transport in this country. We've seen that the public are behind us. Nearly 500,000 people have joined our campaign to reject the government's plans for this country's railways, and they're in support of ours. This is about whether we're going to have a railway system tuned in to deliver profits for private companies, or whether we're going to have a railway that looks after the people in this country and delivers what they need. So thank you so much for coming out. And I want to say particular thanks to RMT branches, Liverpool 5, Wigan, our members who came down from the North East, our members who've come up from the Deep South, who've travelled from all over the country to be here tonight, from the Midlands and from every part of the country. You're a credit to your trade union. You are what make us what we are, and we are the RMT, so thank you for coming out. We've got some fantastic speakers, and first up I'm going to introduce Sarah Ledbetter from the National Federation of the Blind of the UK. So she's a National Campaigns Officer at the National Federation of the Blind, a campaigning organisation founded and run by blind and partially sighted people in the UK. Today they delivered a petition to the Prime Minister calling for the government to make sure that all ticket offices remain open and all staff stations to remain staffed, at times with safe levels of staffing. For all trains to have guards, also known as train managers in some places at all times, and for unstaffed stations to be staffed so that we can look after the travelling public and make sure our railway is a welcoming and accessible place for all travellers, no matter who you are. So this petition was signed by 180 organisations across the UK. So I want to say a massive thank you to the National Federation of the Blind for their work, and I introduce to you Sarah Ledbetter. Give her a big hand, everyone.
No pressure then. Hello everybody, I'm visually impaired, so the train service means a lot to me. I live in a rural part of Narborough, Leicestershire. Thank you Nelly for lying on my feet just at the right time. As you can see, I have a guide dog, so the government say that the actual train ticket offices are inaccessible for blind, visually impaired and disabled people. I walk from my home in a village in Narborough, walk to the train station, we can find the platform, and I say to Nelly, find the ticket office door, and we open it and we can get to a member of staff to talk to. It's very important because 7 years ago I had an accident, I didn't have the proper assistance, and I got onto a train, I slipped, my bum hit the platform and my legs went under a stationary train. So that's what it's like when there's a lot of injuries of people getting on and off trains with not the right assistance. So this is why I'm involved in this campaign to make sure ticket offices are left open, because if there's not a member of staff to tell me the right price tickets, to tell me when my train's cancelled, get me a different route, and the most important thing is to put a ramp down and to assist me onto that train safely, guide me to my seat, tell them the next train station that are coming, like we went on holiday at the start of July, and if it weren't for each station knowing we were coming and going to our end destination, I will not be able to travel, I'll be excluded, I'll be isolated, and I have to stay at home. What was the point of shielding through COVID, remission of cancer, long white cane training, guide dog training? My independence will be gone, I'll be excluded and isolated, and a lot of people will be like that. So we need the ticket offices open for longer, part-time ones open for longer, and the unstaffed ones to have members of staff so we can travel more on a regular basis. We should have the right to travel on a regular basis, but we just need the support of members of staff, and this is why I support you, to keep you going and to keep us assisting us so we can continuously travel by train. Thank you.
Comrades, thank you colleagues. What an honour to be here today. But let's talk about lies. Let's talk about deception. Because it wasn't that long ago, we as an industry, before the pandemic, we were talking about the 180% increase in sexual assaults in our railway. We were talking about county lines. We were talking about acid attacks. And I don't believe that we've become a more polite society. And my members, because the railway became a place of refuge during the pandemic for young people, are now talking about lines in which they don't want to operate trains after a certain time at night. So we need that visible presence on the platforms, in the ticket offices, and also on the trains. We need a railway that serves everybody, an affordable railway. I want a railway where my members feel safe. They don't want to be the bloody lone workers. I'd be under no illusions. We're asking the questions that the RMT and Tessa are asking. Where are the risk assessments for every role on the railway when you take away these jobs? Because the lies of deception are fluffy little videos saying, we're going to redeploy people. We're going to have people there to talk to you. We're going to have people there to look after you. No, if you look at the figures, there's going to be thousands of jobs that no longer exist. We're going to have a place where people don't want to come to, where they won't want to be part of the green integrated transport system because they're frightened for their safety. They'll be frightened to come to work, go home from work, use it for tourism, use it for leisure. The railway belongs to the people of this country. And if I can be a little bit crass, I'm sure Mick will let me be, I don't believe it's our job to fund the privateers, hundreds of millions of pounds in profit, right, to pay their dividends, their shareholders, while cutting the jobs and the conditions and the wages of rail workers in the UK. So quite simply, the fight of the RMT is the fight of every rail worker. The fight of Tessa is the fight of every rail worker. The fight of Unite is the fight of every rail worker. And we've had our summer of solidarity. We've had our winter of solidarity. Today we're looking after the railway, but when we look after the railway, we will fight with other workers for a better future for everybody. This government has to listen. This government has to change. And this government has to protect our railways and a green future. So, Mr Sunak, I see you promoted Mr Shapps today. I was looking for the bombs to rain down. 5 jobs in 12 months. Well, he fucked the railways, he's fucked the other jobs, he'll probably fuck the country. Comrades, we want a better future, we want a future for our children, our grandchildren. Support the RMT, support your railways, and support your own futures. Thank you for listening.
Thank you to the RMT for organising and calling today's demonstration, and thank you to the RMT for all the industrial action they've taken and their determination to make sure we have a decent, safe and publicly owned railway system in this country. Many of their members have made enormous sacrifices during the last few months of dispute. Many of them have seen frozen or falling wages over many years. Many who work on stations and on trains are not particularly well paid, but nevertheless provide a very good service to the public as a whole. I want to say we're here to support all railway workers. We're here to thank the RMT for giving us such fantastic leadership in this whole campaign. And ticket office staff are often sort of ignored. But just think for a moment of their lives and what they do and the importance of their job. And think for a moment of the life that was lost when Ballymalinga died having picked up an infection whilst working as a ticket office staff member at Victoria Station. And when I speak to ticket office staff around the country, I realise just how important they are and how significant their job is. Last week I was travelling from Edinburgh to London on the train, and there was the tragedy of an attempted suicide at Newark, and a police officer lost his life trying to save somebody from taking their own life. A tragic, tragic situation. All the trains were stopped. Therefore, everyone had to try and make other arrangements. And I stayed over in York, and the following morning I went to the ticket office on York Station. Absolutely wonderful service by all the staff there. Empathetic, supportive, understanding, well informed and able to deal with the situation. To issue alternative tickets to people, to book seats for them, to make alternative travel arrangements, explain to them how to get to where they had to go. Just imagine there'd been no ticket office, there'd been no staff. There'd been one person walking around the station with a machine, not as well informed as those in the office. And imagine the anger, the tension, the stress and the chaos that would result from that. I think of my own local ticket office in Finsbury Park. A very stressed and very, very busy station. 30 million people a year use that station. 30 million journeys per year use that station. Close that office, obviously. Those whose first language is not English, those who have sight difficulties, those that have hearing difficulties, those that don't have a mobile phone, those that don't access a computer, those that have different multiple disabilities. Who's going to support them? Who's going to help them? Who's going to give them the tickets and the information that they need? The ticket offices are absolutely an essential part of the lives of the travelling public. Unless, of course, the profiteers who run the train operating companies, maybe they simply don't care about that demographic that needs help and needs support and needs advice. Maybe they don't care about the jobs of those people working in the ticket offices. Where's the difference? We do. That's why we, all of us, are fighting to keep all these ticket offices open. And we're doing that for all the reasons that I've just given you, but we're also doing it because, to me, it's a bit of a Rubicon in the way our society is run. Are we to be a society where you never actually ever talk to anybody? All you do is have multiple choice questions when you phone any institution, bank or anything else, and you keep keying in a number to be told that you shouldn't really be phoning at all in the first place, when we can't ever talk to somebody. And then you close ticket offices and you close so much else. A very large proportion of the population, not a majority, but a large proportion, are simply excluded from society altogether. There is a big digital divide which cannot be closed by even smarter technology. The only way you close that divide is the human interaction, the human face, the human voice, and that sense of empathy that's going on. And the last point I'd make is this about station safety. RMT members and others who work on our stations do a fantastic job. They don't just dispatch trains, they don't just serve food, they don't just clean the trains and clean the station. They're also the human face on the station. If our stations are going to be de-staffed or so dramatically reduced there's only 1 or 2 people on the whole station, that makes them dangerous places. It makes single people travelling alone late at night vulnerable. It makes women who are under threat or being harassed more vulnerable as a result of it. It means those people that are going through a crisis, who often turn up at stations because they see a station as a central part of our community, will have nobody there that can give them that helping hand and that piece of advice. And so our campaign is about jobs, it is about pay, it is about money, but it's also about services. And I simply say this to the train operating companies and all the others: your bottom line is your profits. Our bottom line is service to the public. And that's why, whatever the outcomes announced in the near future by the government, we will carry on campaigning for that human face, that human interaction, to ensure our stations and our travelling public are safe. And I want now, before I finish, just to say this. I'm about to hand over the microphone to a good friend of mine, somebody who, like me, greatly admires James Connolly and his socialist vision, somebody who, like me, wants to see a decent, fairer and better society. And the trade union movement, the essence of trade union membership, is bring people in to campaign together for that fair, decent and just society, as I happily hand the microphone over to Mick Lynch.
Hello, good evening. The trouble with Jeremy Corbyn is he says everything that you're supposed to say yourself. So well done, Jeremy, you've nicked everything. But my main job here tonight is the vote of thanks, if you like, that we used to do at most union meetings. And I want to thank all of you for turning out. I want to thank our own members for the fight they've put up over the last 14 months. And that fight will continue. But let's not forget, we've been campaigning on these issues for over 3 years now. In the depths of COVID, right in the middle of it, they came to us and the other unions and said, we are going to chop up this industry, we're going to chop up your members' contracts of employment, you won't get a pay rise for the foreseeable future, and all of your conditions are now on the altar of cuts. And we've been fighting that for the last 3 years. And we're going to continue to fight for that, because what they're telling us to do in this industrial dispute is give up everything you've negotiated, everything that our forebears handed on to us in terms of terms and conditions, pensions, pay, rostering, whatever you want to name, which is really important on a 24/7 railway. You've got to give that up for a poxy 9% over 4 years. and we're saying we're not having it. We're going to keep this fight up, and we'll keep going until we get an agreement that we can support. And what we've got here tonight, and what we've had all across the country, I've been up in Edinburgh campaigning, in Berwick in the north of England, and our members from Berwick were here tonight and have had to travel back. We've got Liverpool, Wigan, people from all over the country. Everywhere we've gone, Newcastle. I'm not going to name them all, it's a big railway, there's 974 stations. Everywhere we go, from Edinburgh to Penzance, the communities are coming out. Accessibility groups, our disabled brothers and sisters, people with visual impairments, people with hearing impairments, people with learning difficulties, people who just don't want to be ripped off by the algorithm and artificial intelligence, which is what you're going to get going forward. Not the human hand or the human smile or the kind gesture. You're going to be delivered your ticket via an app, and they will sell you the ticket they want you to have, not the ticket you need or the best value. So this is a fight for the future. It's a fight for the future of the railway workers. It's a fight for the future of our communities. People up and down this country are sick and tired of their communities being hollowed out. Our post offices are being closed. Our pubs are being closed. Our banks have withdrawn from the high street. Everywhere we go, all the community assets are being hollowed out in the name of profit, in the name of modernisation. That is the most abused word, along with reform, modernisation. It's cuts, cuts, cuts. That's all we get from this lot over here. And let's not forget, the responsibility for this is not with the train operating companies, as much as we dislike them. It's with Rishi Sunak and the top people in the cabinet. The choice and the decision to shut the ticket offices, to de-staff our stations, to make a quarter of our members working on the stations redundant in the notices they've already given to us, is a political decision by Rishi Sunak. It's a political decision by Jeremy Hunt. He's taken on the consultants, he's taken on the junior doctors, he's taken on the railway workers. Well, the message has got to be from all of our communities. We are united as a working group, as a working class, and we will fight these cuts in our council services. We'll fight them in any service that's provided, and we want services for our people. The NHS, education, care, council services, whatever it is, these belong to us. These are national assets, and we will protect them with all our might. So what we've got to learn, and what the Labour Party must learn, and anyone that wants our votes, whether they're in the Scottish Parliament, the Welsh Assembly, Westminster, in the mayoral halls or in local authorities, if you want working people to vote for you in the coming elections, you've got to deliver an agenda for working people. That means in the workplace with the New Deal for workers, getting rid of these anti-trade union laws, giving us the right to strike, giving us sectoral bargaining for every worker, workers' rights from day one. All of that stuff. You cannot have proper public services without proper pay terms and conditions for public sector workers. The trade union movement must commit to defying the minimum service levels, non-compliance and non-cooperation with anti-trade union laws going forward. We've got to do whatever it takes to turn over this injustice. We've got to fight for our stations, fight for our people, build a new working class movement based in all our interest groups, the disability groups, the identity groups, the people struggling against poverty have all got to be brought into our working class movement. We've got to stand up for ourselves, not rely on the professional politicians and the shysters. Let's have a working class movement that serves our interests, that serves our people and wins for our class. Solidarity, let's get in before the rain comes. There's a storm coming, make sure the Tories feel it, and let's win for our class and for our people. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you.